And that's the intro. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Simply Technical. I'm Evan Keaton. Again, I practiced which way to point before, and I didn't point
Got
correctly. That's what you get when you talk for 25 minutes before you start. We're back again. Episode number 17. It's kind of crazy. We were talking about 17 episodes since we started back in, what was it, January?
Yep, January.
Excited to be here again, of course.
Yep. Did we pass the amount of episodes we made last time?
No.
Almost.
I think 20. I think
Okay.
The church, what was it? Why Millennials Are Leaving the Church.
Yeah.
I think that was episode 20. So we're getting close. And we're technically in season 3. So the way I've been divvying it up is each year that we do an episode or is considered a season.
Yeah.
So like we started in 2019.
Yeah, 2019 went through 2020, then COVID happened and stopped.
Yeah, so that would have been 2 seasons. So this is season 3.
Our last episode, though, was the COVID one. That was the last one ever before COVID struck.
Yes.
And we called everything.
Yeah. Which, that's an idea for a future episode of reacting. I don't know how well that will do. I don't know if anyone will actually like it, but we will react to some old clips and talk about how crazy that time in history, not just our life, but in history.
Yeah.
How crazy that was. I think that'll be a good episode.
Yeah, that would be a good one. But I will say about COVID before we jump into this, I really want a like every 10 years we like celebrate COVID and we do a 6-week lockdown. We just do whatever we want.
I can get behind that. I'm just going to take 6 weeks of leave. Unpaid. I won't survive, but it is what it is. Sorry, mortgage company. But we're going to talk about success. Why don't you explain it? Because I'm going to butcher it again.
I think we're going to talk about there's like this big debate going on always on social media about whether success in anything that you do is more related to your luck or is it more skill/hard work. I think that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about and probably take some branches out into different areas with that.
Yeah, and I think we kind of agree, but I will definitely play some devil's advocate, and you might play some devil's advocate as well.
Yeah.
I think we both can agree that it's majority hard work.
Yeah.
Now, there are instances where luck is involved. So, like, say you're starting a business or starting a YouTube channel, hitting the marketing just right or hitting the YouTube algorithm just right is definitely can be a luck thing. With some, if you're posting YouTube short and it's just a scene with you and your stupid friends doing something dumb, you run into a wall or something, and that goes viral, like that would be more considered luck from my end.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you did the work to hit the wall, or embarrassed yourself, but it's still more luck based instead of trying to build a brand.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Naval Ravikant?
I have not.
He's like angel investor in Silicon Valley, big deal guy. I mean, he doesn't post nearly as much as he used to, but he had like this famous Twitter thread about how to get rich without getting lucky, I guess is what it was. And it wasn't like, it was clickbaity as can be. Anything that's like how to get rich is clickbait. It was actually like wise advice. He admitted at the end of the tweet thread, he's like, this is not about getting rich. That was just my clickbait title. But I don't remember exactly what he puts, but he has like different categories of luck. It's like dumb luck is like what you just said, like someone goes viral for running into a wall, or dumb luck in life is like, okay, you were born into a millionaire's family. That's just pure dumb luck. And then there's other types of luck, like I don't remember exactly his wording for it, but it's like you take a lot of shots on goal and eventually something works out. So it's like a persistence. And then he has the one that's essentially like you're so skilled at X or Y. You're such a good engineer that you know when lucky breaks happen in a field. So you're such an expert in the field, I have to jump on this opportunity. And I'll kind of jump into that one first because I think that's something that has happened quite a bit recently with all the open AI stuff. Like the AI stuff people, developers that were good, jumped immediately on that. I follow one guy who is just like an indie developer, and he jumped on those AI things and started building little, you know, gimme apps, and he made like $400,000 in the first month with this app. So just like taking like those sort of seizing the opportunities when they come is a type of luck. It's I guess using your skills. And do you have anything to say about that? Because I think there's one more type of luck, but I don't remember.
Yeah, well, I can, if you want to look it up, I can, or
yeah.
It. So as far as, I'll kind of relate those to YouTube, since I'm a big like YouTube guy. Like I watch a ton of content. I follow the scene for the most part as far as content creation. You know, not that I know every YouTuber or watch millions of hours of YouTube, but like somebody I'd say that knows the scene very well, that's a YouTuber that is relatable, is probably like somebody like Mr. Beast. Mm-hmm. He kind of knows what's going to hit. He has a good content team behind him. He has built up over the years. It wasn't necessarily like a super, snap of he went viral once. He is constantly going viral. And he's also somebody that he doesn't make a ton of money. Like the YouTube, like the videos pop off obviously and get millions of views. And he has like 12 channels. Because he has so much money and puts so much work into it. He has people translating his videos into other languages in their native language. So like
that's wild.
He's recording a video for English, and then he has a Spanish one and a French one, and maybe a Portuguese one. And so they're like translating these videos for these people. So like he's somebody that obviously pops off all the time. He knows the scene. He knows a lot of it. And he will still have some luck in the background. Like he'll still maybe go viral. I mean, every time you go viral, it's all relative. A viral video for us is going to be, we get 100 views on something on a normal podcast, a long form podcast. Viral for us on a short is going to be 1,300 views, even though we can't break the wall past that. So like everything as far as like going viral and the content scene is all relative. And I think we talked about this in season 1 with Chance a little bit, that you're just compounding your viral videos of, okay, well, for season 3 for us, our viral videos were 1,300 views. Well, okay, well, they're compounding a little bit. We're getting, more subscribers, more viewers. Okay, well, the next time we go viral in the next season, it'll be 1,600 or 2,000. And so like, it's just compounding.
Yeah. I mean, what is the compound interest is like the next wonder of the world, essentially.
Most powerful
force in the world. And I mean, what does startups say? Oh, like 5% growth per month is insane. Like that's incredible. Before long, I don't even know how long it takes to double. Like at an 8%. In the stock market, it essentially doubles every 8 or 9 or 10 years, I think. And you get on content and YouTube, those percentages could be like 8% a month, and that will massively increase over a 3 or 4 year span. So yeah, it seems like the persistence thing is definitely a big part of content. Although if anyone has any tips on how we can break the 1,300 view barrier, please let us know.
Paid position.
Yeah. We need some nicer camera setup, I think.
And to add on to that, I lost my train of thought.
Dude, this is right here. This is going to be the video that gets 10,000 views, right? It's going to be the short right now.
We're manifesting it.
Yeah. I'm going to clip
it.
Say something profound.
It's important. Yeah. It's important to fall in love with the process. I think, and to relate for us, I guess, maybe for you didn't necessarily like the process in the beginning. I could be wrong.
No, yeah.
You have to fall in love with the process. You have to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if you hate it, it doesn't matter if you have 10 subscribers or 10 views or 5,000 or 10,000. If you don't like what you're doing, what's the point? And it's going to be such a struggle to post things.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say at the beginning, I didn't like it as much, but also I was a much more self-conscious on saying anything bad on social media. Now I still feel a little bit self-conscious, but I feel a lot less because I feel like I have the skills to make more money than I do in science if something ever happens. So it's a little bit less pressure on me.
Yeah, I mean, just having fun with it is important.
Yeah, that's the big thing. And for me, just doing the videos and talking is what's fun. And like especially when we have really good guests on, like Connor and Sam, those two were a lot of fun because it was a lot different than what we usually talk about, I think.
And Matt, it was fun.
And Matt, of course, Matt. But we all talk to Matt all the time. So
yeah, the other two guys, it's more of a profound thing.
Yeah.
Matt, we're talking through things that we've talked with in the background.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like not as enjoyable, but it's like the second time you're hearing something, or you're recording your previous conversation basically.
Yeah. I guess what I mean is what Connor and Sam was like. I was learning something new, which I guess learn a couple of new things with Matt when we talk.
Yeah,
about
the BlackRock stuff
especially.
is crazy.
Yeah.
So and then persistence. If you follow Gary Vaynerchuk, he's talked about persistence like all the time. That's such a push for him of it doesn't matter if you have a bad camera or your content may not be as good this time as it was last time.
Mm-hmm.
You still need to post. If you want to do it full time or want to do it professionally, you just got to post. Like there's no, even if you get a quarter of a subscriber every time you post, that's a quarter more than you had last time.
Yeah, that's true.
So just posting is just important.
But also, I wonder sometimes if the persistence can be distracting from like actually improving your stuff as you post. I wonder how much. I feel like that, to me, that's the biggest thing. If okay, yeah, you can be persistent and post a lot, and you probably will grow, but you should probably be getting better as you post. Like naturally, you should probably be getting a little bit better at what you're talking about. You should be getting a little bit better at your video editing process. Maybe your clickbaiting abilities, which I still hate. That's the one thing I think I don't like is every time I post a short and I'm like, I think of a more clickbaity title, I feel like a part of me dies inside.
Yeah. So as far as luck, I mean, persistence is kind of throwing the spaghetti. I don't know if that's the term. Throwing the spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
Mashed potatoes. But yeah, you do need to be getting better.
Yeah. Persistence without skill is it's going to lower your chances of any kind of success, I think. But I really wanted to talk about this whole topic mostly because it seems like the entire world is like leaning towards this idea that everything success is just pure luck. And you even see, like big time billionaires like Bezos or Gates will talk about, oh yeah, I was just lucky. It was like right timing, which it was right timing. That's like the one piece of luck. But I mean, say what you want about Gates, but if you've read or seen anything about him, he was like a psychopath back in the early days of Microsoft. They were like a juggernaut, and that's not luck. that was hard work that dude put in, and same with Bezos. So it's a weird thing that a whole world is starting to get to this idea that everything is just pure luck. Like Elon Musk is pure luck. Yeah, there's some luck. Always a part of. There's always some luck involved in anything big, but it's never purely down to luck. If you have, I think it was Naval was saying that if you're listening to this or you're reading this tweet thread, and you have your arms and your legs, you are better off than quite a large chunk of the world who has no internet connection or people who are disabled and are unable to, actually do much. So the majority of us, are pretty dang lucky. Anyone in the U.S. is pretty lucky comparative to the rest of the world. It's just like Do you take some chances? Do you take some risk and try to make something of it?
I think they want it to be luck. And I guess the quote that I would say is, if you do something long enough, you're going to get lucky at least once. You know, if you do YouTube for 10 years, you're going to get lucky. You're going to have at least one viral video. I mean, if you have to be trying not to get a viral video after 10 years of YouTube. But I also think they want you to think it's luck, so you don't work as hard. You know, obviously those people are very hard to challenge, but somebody will challenge them eventually. Somebody else will, you know, 20 years ago when Microsoft was, you know, I say 20 years ago, that'd be 2003. 30 years ago when Microsoft was starting to take off, you know, Jeff Bezos wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he was alive, but you know, Amazon wasn't probably even planned then. So there are people that will challenge them, but I think in their mind it's, well, maybe we can stay on top longer if people don't challenge us. If they think it's luck, you know, we can discourage one extra person by saying it's just luck. Oh, I'm just not a lucky person, you know.
Yeah.
You know, blaming something else rather than working hard.
Yeah. And I think the view that when you view that success or is predominantly luck, that's a view of the future. Okay. You have this future, everyone has a future ideal or should. And if that idea is, oh, it's all just pure luck, that's going to shape the actions that you do today. I think this is similar. Actually, this was the sort of like foundations kind of what I was writing and talking about a little bit in the college section at our church was from a Christian point of view. If you just sort of, you know, you have this view that like a heaven and earth are completely separate, then you're gonna, you know, your actions today are gonna point towards, well, earth doesn't matter. There's just heaven. So that's what I all that matters. And my interpretation is that's not what the New Testament says at all. But I think that idea applies to just regular life. Is if you think that everything is all random chance, then you're never gonna do anything except just live in the moment. And that's when no luck will ever find you then. That's for sure. If you're just not making any sort of goal or effort to accomplish anything.
The people looking up at you will call it luck, but you'll know that you worked hard enough to become lucky. And I think that's people just consider it lucky when somebody makes it, because that's the story that helped them sleep at night. I mean,
that's fair.
I need to coddle. I think most people a lot of their mindsets is they're coddling themselves. It's a response to, well, the thing that sucks is that I don't work hard enough. I don't want to tell myself that. That's depressing, or that's sad. I don't want to think that. So I'm just going to convince myself or subconsciously think, well, it was just luck. It was just luck.
Yeah.
But you just didn't work hard enough. Sorry.
Yeah. And I think also, like, I always sort of proceed with caution when I say it's all about just hard work, because I think, well, yes, that's a part of it. But, you know, there's a lot of people who work extremely hard doing like manual labor jobs who don't end up making that much money. It's really about hard work plus leverage. Like, how are you leveraging your skills? And there's three or four forms of leverage. There's the form, the original form, which is like labor leverage, which is where you have a bunch of people working underneath you. That's the hardest to get. That's definitely the hardest to accomplish. Then financial leverage is what took over from about 1900 or the 1900s through, let's say, 1970s. And that essentially was, okay, you had a lot of money. You could move money around as money bags. You have a lot of leverage to make more money. That's why everyone says money begets money. And that's still a very common form of leverage. Same with labor. Those are still common forms of leverage, but the new most powerful forms of leverage that have emerged, both of them more recently, is code. So computers, and where you can essentially permissionlessly start a $1 billion company from your laptop. That's the first form of leverage, and then the second one is media, and where you can start a YouTube channel and you have unlimited scale potential on a YouTube or a podcast, and that's essentially free. It's not free, but these are new forms of leverage that have just sort of emerged on over the last 30, 40 years that I think people should be taking a bigger advantage of. I think if you're not orienting yourself towards somehow using these tools, then you're minimizing your chance of sort of having a breakout.
Well, I mean, is smarts, is that a form of leverage? I mean, being smarter than the person next to you.
Yeah, or being smarter, but seizing the opportunities. Kind of, I guess how I said before. If it's the intelligence, you're an expert in the field. You realize, oh, you can make these new AI things real easy. You make a new app built on OpenAI's API so easily. Well, no one realizes that yet, and so you're a developer and you seize that chance and you make a ton of money all of a sudden after 2 weeks of building an app. Like, yeah, so intelligence plays a role, but I think it's more recognizing and jumping on opportunities, taking a little bit of risk. I think that's also something that's not ever or has decreased in the world. Like if you look at the stats especially for generations a little bit younger than us, progressively generations have gotten more and more risk intolerant. So we're more risk averse is the better way to put it. We're more risk averse, and the generations below us are extremely risk averse. They're not getting their driver's license when they're 16 anymore. And a lot of that might have to do with the fact that they're just staying inside on social media. They don't have any motivation to go out. But then you also see and I don't support these activities, but this is sort of a proxy for teenage risk taking. But like you see that teenagers drink a lot less than they did over the last few decades, sort of indicating, okay, what's wrong with these kids? They're not, doing any sort of risky things. And I think that will end up translating into who's starting businesses, who's taking risks in real life. Because I don't really think you don't want to take stupid risks, but without taking any risks, you're never setting yourself up for one of those lucky breaks.
Well, I think one of the reasons is you hear stories. I think stories that we hear, the negative stories we hear, are more impactful as generations go on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you've heard scary stories, the one, I heard about so-and-so and so-and-so, and they did this. And so in your mind, you're thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to learn from their mistake and not do that. Well, in reality, 100 people did that. Yep. And the one story you heard was the bad one.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just, I forget what that's called, but it kind of goes back to the psychology of your parents are scared of snakes. You've never even interacted with the snake before, but you're scared of snakes because they're scared.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a risk.
That makes sense. And it it makes sense why we would be that way. Why does negative or pessimistic views dominate our psyche so much more than optimistic? And I think the answer is pretty simple. Like from a evolutionary biology's perspective is, well, the pessimistic person usually survived. If someone, the optimistic person says, oh, that volcano is not going to blow up, while the pessimistic person gets out of Dodge and survives, that's sort of a selection process. And volcano is probably the worst example. Maybe let's say like snake, that snake, or those berries. Oh, let's try those berries. And see, they look good. Well, the pessimistic person's going to be like, oh, I don't know, might be dangerous, and they survive. And I think that's how we get this sort of adaptation to view pessimistic, have this pessimistic perspective because it's protective generally. But we live in a safe time, like especially in the U.S. Like risk, it's very difficult to completely ruin yourself without doing something extremely stupid. Like, I mean, gambling is one way to ruin yourself. That's dumb. You don't have any. The odds are against you. But outside of that, if you're prepared, like it's pretty difficult to ruin yourself.
Well, I think socially, I think has a lot to do with it. We're more,
Yeah.
even though we're interacting less social or interacting less like on a face-to-face basis, we're still scared of what other people think of us.
Yeah.
And well, I don't want to start this business because if I fail, how embarrassing is that going to be when I fail this business that I spent 5 years on? Well, better not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, social standing drives us way more than I think we're aware. And like on that note, as well as the risk averse note, so let's say you have a goal. You want to go from point A, where you're at now, to point B, which is your supreme ideal goal. And generally, in what if you take anybody's advice, they're going to say, "Oh, you should do this first. You should get some experience in this first, and then you should go get some experience in this first, and then you'll be prepared to go to point B." And so instead of going from point A to point B, we sort of like take these diverging paths and say, okay, but first I'll do this, and then I'll have the option to later go to B when the fastest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line and just doing it. But because of social pressures, because people advise us against it, and people, if someone's giving you advice, their natural inclination is to give you advice that's not going to ruin you. So because that protects their skin. If I give you advice and you go and ruin your life, well, that you're going to be pretty upset at me. So naturally, I'm going to tell you the most conservative path forward if you asked me for some kind of advice. But realistically, I think we're harming each other when we do that. I think if the person is competent, that's one major thing. A lot of people are pretty incompetent. But I think anyone can be competent with some discipline. And I think failing will teach you that competence real quickly. So it's better to just do things and fail a little bit, and hopefully, you end up succeeding. I think that'll be the fastest way to get to point B.
Yeah, the burning the ships on the shore, I think, is a good analogy. I don't know if you've heard that before.
I haven't heard that.
Well, like when Christopher Columbus came, or the conquistadors, they came to the United States or North America, and they didn't like it here. So you know what they did? They burned their ships. The captain burned their ships so they couldn't turn back. That in college, I heard something similar to that saying of, okay, you're doing engineering. Engineering's hard. Don't have a backup plan. You have a backup plan, you're going to hit a tough wall. You're going to quit and say, oh, I don't want to do engineering anymore. I want to do teaching. That's, maybe that's a little less hard. So in your mind, you don't have a backup plan. You just go. You just do 100%. Because if you have a backup plan, you're going to stop. You're going to be like, well, I'm 90%. I'll give 90% effort. If it doesn't work, I'll be safe. I'll do my backup plan, my plan B. So burn your ships at the shore.
That's interesting. I had not really thought about it like that, but yeah, that's very true. It's when we're not fully dedicated to whatever our highest ideal is, which I think a lot of us have to think about what exactly it is we want. And I don't think just simply saying, oh, you want to make a lot of money is a good goal to have. It's kind of like, oh, you want to do something greater than yourself a little bit, and that's like a real motivating factor. But like you said, having a bunch of backups is gonna send you, as soon as the first wave comes, you're gonna be I guess in the ship analogy, you're going to be taking the ship right back home.
Yeah, and another factor in that is, I think a lot of our generation, and maybe even the younger generation than us, they watch a lot of motivational things. I watch quite a bit of motivational things. It makes me feel good. It makes me kind of get amped up. But if you're requiring motivation to do something from like an external source, your parents, your friend, your, watching some YouTube shorts or some TikTok to get motivation to do something, you're not going to do it. That is not something that you need to do, because you're going to have to watch motivation every time you get up to go do something.
Yeah, and eventually you're just gonna
the motivation is going to wear off. It's
adapt
not going to.
Yeah.
Your brain is going to be like, well, I listened to this video 12 times yesterday and I finally did it.
Yep.
Guess tomorrow I'll have to listen to it 14 times to get up and go to work, or get up to work on something. So
yeah, I agree with that completely. I always wonder, I think the common advice is like, okay, if someone doesn't know what they want to do, or with their career or life, I think when I say success, I don't always just mean career. I think like family success is also a huge factor, and definitely is probably the primary purpose for a lot of people. But just to make it easier, I'm mostly talking about career at the moment. But I think when people talk about, how do you find something that you really love, or how do you find something that really motivates you? And the common advice is, okay, you should pursue what you love. But I've been thinking about this. I think I would amend that a little bit to instead say, pursue what makes you curious. Because when you pursue sort of what makes you curious, you go into like unknown spaces, you learn new skills. When you pursue what you love, it's generally what you're comfortable with, and you're not going to grow new skills. You don't have these sort of diverging new things that you learn about. So I knew it sort of like catchphrase is to pursue what makes you curious, because maybe you're a little bit ADHD, kind of like how I am, where you have just tons of interests and you dive right into them, and they don't really connect completely. But I think eventually all the dots will connect in the rear view mirror, to where you have this sort of broad knowledge and you can use ideas from different fields to further your own field. Because when you're actually playing at the frontier of a field, the best way to push it forward is to have knowledge from another domain that everyone else doesn't in your field doesn't have. And so that's my sort of new thing is curiosity over passion, because passion usually develops from curiosity, but just purely pursuing passion means you're not going to be growing in any new skills or new knowledge, because how could you be passionate about something you don't know about?
Yeah, that's true. Gary Vee always talks about trying, a bunch of different things. And there's no shame. So like, say you're 20 years old or 18 years old and you're trying to figure out what to do with your life. If you have the opportunity, there's no shame in staying with your parents for a couple years to try to figure out what you want to do. I mean, now if you're staying at home playing video games all day, like, okay, that opportunity is probably going to wear thin, but like, use that opportunity to try different things. When you're in school, if you enjoyed certain subjects, I think there's, I guess, a difference between enjoying and passion. I think you need to enjoy what you do.
Yeah. Enjoy usually, I mean, when I say just pursuing curiosity, I think joy aligns very well with what makes you curious. If you're going to dive into a topic that interests you, naturally that's going to bring you some happiness. Even if that topic, doesn't keep your interest for your whole life, it's still nice to at least know you can teach yourself something. Like I always say, I said that on the education podcast, that's the most important skill you could possibly have, is the ability to teach yourself anything, but not just the ability, the the ability, not just the ability to teach yourself, but the ability to know you can teach yourself anything. That way you're not afraid of doing, pursuing any sort of field. And that's where you get, big breakthroughs in different projects, which I know I don't speak from experience because I have no big breakthroughs in any projects, but I have taught myself many skills that I just purely learned from the internet that I applied to my work and made quite useful for our lab. And I hope to do the same with some of the little mini businesses I spin out with the AI stuff as of recent. But it's just the idea like, okay, well, how could someone who does biology get into code? Well, because I don't feel nervous I feel like I can learn anything. I can just pull up a YouTube video and watch for a few hours and mostly figure it out. It's like tinkering, just tinkering around, and eventually it works.
So is there some luck involved with like tinkering like that? Like,
yeah, tinkering.
Searching...
What is my favorite writer is Nassim Taleb, and I don't want to botch what he says because it's been a little while since I've read his books. But essentially, his entire thesis is on avoiding black swan risks. So black swan risk is like rare event that just completely wipes you out. And that's his big thing. But then, okay, well, how do you pursue the positive black swans? And which essentially is like, okay, a positive black swan is a sort of asymmetric gain event. You start a company and it goes balloons really quick. And his idea is, he calls it convex tinkering. All the big science, all the greatest discoveries in science, or I shouldn't say all, a lot of the greatest discoveries in science happened not by perfect planning. It happened by serendipity. So random tinkering around, fooling around, and say, oh, this is interesting. Let's dive into this further. And he sort of has this idea that, okay, that's quite a bit, that's pretty similar with a company. A lot of companies start out, they say they're going to do this product, and then it doesn't really work out, or they find something more interesting when they're developing that product. And so it's called this convex tinkering, or convexity is basically like an asymmetric. You picture like a curve. It's a curve that's just exponential up to the right. And I think that's one way to find interesting things, is to just tinker around, and suddenly ideas will come to you.
I mean, think of even innovations. I'm fat, so I think of food. I mean, I'm sure there's something you thought of, you listening, or Keaton. There's something you thought of when you thought of a product that was made by pure luck. There's so many, like our modern tires. It was found by pure luck. Like somebody accidentally dipped their tire in like sulfur, or this rubber and sulfur, and it like hardened it. And they're like, whoa, what can we use this for? And it eventually ended up being, the modern tire. I mean, obviously didn't have tread and stuff, but like there's all these different products. And I said food. I think like some like potato chips and stuff were found like by accidentally dipping things in hot oil, and like all these food products, all these different things. So there is a luck to it, and maybe we would have found it eventually, but yeah, I probably wouldn't have been that same person. It'd probably been somebody else.
Yeah, but that's where I think people could sometimes get wrong, is because, it was luck. I mean, those more so than not, but a lot of times it's luck that can be seized upon by someone who recognizes it, and very few people can recognize it. You have to have the wherewithal to recognize, oh, this is actually something big. Like, gosh, why am I forgetting the guy who discovered penicillin's name?
Dr. Penicillin.
I don't think it is, but but anyways, he noticed, oh, why is this, he would leave out petri dishes, I believe, on his windowsill, and one day he noticed that the bacteria wasn't growing well in a certain spot, and he's like, that's strange. What could be causing this? And just the idea to think, well, that's weird. I should do something about that. Sort of, that's where you get the innovations, and very few people are in the place to recognize that. And I think that's why you have to have a broad knowledge, because you aren't going to recognize things without a broad spectrum of knowledge. You're not going to innovate without a broad spectrum of knowledge. A lot of medicine is there's a whole part of medicine that's really gaining a lot of steam now. It's like, how can we repurpose drugs that are used for certain things that are actually maybe more useful for other things, that we noticed, there's a huge population. Okay, let's take metformin. And I will put my cards on the table right now. I don't think metformin is like the secret to longevity, like some people do. But besides the point, metformin is a diabetes drug, and probably the most prescribed drug in the history of drugs, if I had to guess. And some, intelligent scientists started noticing, oh, wait, well, how are some of these diabetic patients are living longer, or they're having lower cancer rates? What could possibly be causing that? And so they looked into metformin, and some lab studies showed that metformin could maybe extend lifespan in mice. It could extend lifespan in worms. So it's like interesting. So now, because of that, they had the wherewithal to aggregate all this data, hundreds of thousands of people, and said, oh, this could actually be really useful. And then they applied that knowledge, and that actually metformin is the first ever drug to sort of be tested for longevity by the FDA. It's not directly testing for longevity, but it's sort of a proxy endpoint for longevity. And we'll find out in a few years what happens. I personally don't think it will turn out, but just the fact that someone recognized that this could be useful. Or same thing, a little bit similar with the GLP-1 agonists, which are the ones that have been shown to be incredible weight loss drugs. These were originally diabetes drugs, I believe, just to simply lower blood glucose, but I'm not for sure about that. And people started noticing, oh, diabetic patients are losing weight. Okay, what is it? Okay, could be the GLP-1 agonist. Well, let's give it to regular people and see what happens. And turns out it helped regular people a lot. So these sort of things happen when people are ready to jump on them and recognize them. And those are a little bit more obvious. Like, obviously, you're going to recognize weight loss. But I don't think reduction in cancer incidence is very obvious, because, our health data is pretty crap. It's like, aggregating all these people's data is not something that's easy to do. And it's because everyone has different doctors and all the people are in different systems. So it takes someone with a lot of wherewithal to recognize these sort of things.
Yeah, and having the knowledge to place it. Okay, you notice this trend, but having the knowledge or awareness, I guess, to place it towards something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like for my example of like tires, like, okay, you notice that this happened, but like you have to have, you say wherewithal.
Yeah, I can't think of a better word. I keep saying it over and over again.
The awareness to
awareness.
Well, what if we used it for this? So, yeah. And as a society, I think we are honing more in on certain skills. Oh, you're an engineer. Okay, stick in your lane of engineering. We want you to be the best engineer we've ever had. Okay, well, I like to have a broad scope. I don't want... No. Stick in your lane. You're the best engineer. You need to... Oh, you're an engineer for designing structure. Okay, well, you're not going to go from structure to manufacturing. That's a no-no. Like, you need to stay in structure. That's what you're in. So I think as we're becoming more specialist based, and maybe that's just an engineering thing. Like, oh, you don't have any experience with this. We're gonna have to train you. Okay, we're gonna have to train anyone else anyways. Yeah. Like, So we're becoming very specialized.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this awareness of multiple topics, multiple facets is kind of a dying skill set, I guess.
Yes, I'm glad you said that because that is the ultimate. I, it's the entire world's advice. Like one of the most famous phrases of all time is the jack of all trades is the master of none. But I think that's a dangerous idea because I don't think it doesn't take a whole ton of effort to be better than 90% of people in a field because people don't put very much effort in realistically. Now getting up to that last 99% is a lot more difficult, but the master of one trade is the connector of none is the better way to say it. So the jack of all trades is able to connect all the fields, and connections are where you find new fields. That's where you find new innovations. So this whole idea that you have to be in this box is I completely reject that, and I think it's one of my least favorite conventional ideas in the world because it's so dangerous. And not only that, if people, which I fully believe that people are going to be living longer, I think that longevity science will take off enough to where we're going to live. So I would say the average age of our generation will be 100 years old. So 20 years extra. Do you really want to do the tiny specialized job your whole life? Like our brains are incredible. We have incredible capacity to learn new things. Like who's to say you can't be an engineer in one life and then be a history professor in the next life? And when I say that, I mean like, your
second half of your life or something.
Second half of your life, yeah. But everyone rejects that idea, and everyone says you have to go to school for 4 years to do this. And I think that's completely ludicrous. I think you can learn the majority of what you need to know on the job. You could spend maybe a year studying the theory and then throw them into the fire, throw them into the job, and that's where you learn.
Yeah. And maybe the specialization is more corporate driven than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, us as people, we want our brains to be pushed a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're doing the same thing over and over again, not learning anything new, that is boring. I don't care who you ask. It might be comfortable, but it is boring. And you need a little bit of, push sometimes in your brain by learning new things. That didn't make any sense, but
no, it does. It makes perfect sense.
But I also think of like, I make good money right now. Like I make, I'm a single guy, I have a girlfriend, but single, not married. I've only been working for 4 years or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I make good money. In 10 years, I'm going to be making a ton of money if I continue down this path. I don't know where I'm going with this, but like if I become too specialized, I'm not going to be able to find a job somewhere else. I'll be making too much money. I don't know.
What's the most dangerous? What's the most dangerous American drug? It's like upper middle class salary and the keeping up with the Joneses idea, where you can't possibly get out of where you hate your job, you can't possibly get out because how else are you going to make that much money? You're so specialized that you can't find somewhere else that's going to pay you that kind of cash. So yeah, it's a dangerous place to be in, but also I guess some people just value money more than anything. But I think you can make a lot of money being multifaceted. I think you make way more money being multifaceted because you can start your own things usually. Specialists don't usually start their own things, I don't think. Maybe that's a generalization, but in my head it makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't, as somebody, I lost what I was about to say. the being multifaceted can impact a smaller company, I guess. If I'm so specialized, say I'm so specialized in designing electrical systems, and say I make $200,000 a year. Well, I can't go to a smaller company. Like I can only move laterally or up slightly to other companies that are large. So I'm like hurting myself in my job field. But if I'm multifaceted and I still earn, say I earn 200,000, or maybe even 150, I can go to a smaller company and say, hey, you have these 3 people that do these jobs. I can do 80% of their work or 70% of their work, and I'm one person, and I only make 150 instead of 300,000 or 250. I'm super valuable, and you're the man on campus kind of thing. So that's kind of how I was at my last job. I had manufacturing experience, but I was a design engineer. Well, guess what? I designed and also helped manufacturing, and like I did 1.5 times, I guess you could say, of a person, and that's super valuable to a company. I mean, they, give me raise when I asked for one. It was like, oh, you want a raise? Okay, here you go. Like, because you're doing the job of 1.5 people, you're valuable, you understand more, and you're more relatable, I guess, as well. If you'd become a manager, you're more relatable. Multiple different facets, so you can help manage or teach people in that aspect.
Yeah.
That was a really weird tangent, but
no, that aligns perfectly. More skills you have, the more valuable you are, especially to smaller companies. And smaller companies are also, in my opinion, probably better to work at because you have so much room for growth. And as a company, you can actually make a difference at a small company. Like, I mean, you can make a difference at a big company, but you're kind of like a cog in a machine at a super large company. Whereas at a small place, you're an integral part. And that's not to say like there's a big part of me that doesn't want to disparage a lot of work is just for money. Like that's perfectly fine if that's what you're doing. But I still think you should have some kind of higher purpose. Like maybe you want to be the best dad in the whole world. Well, you got to actually put a lot of effort into that. And part of that is maybe you make a lot of money as a primary provider. Or maybe you want to make a lot of money so you can give a lot of it away to, I don't know, some charity you're excited about, or you want to grow your church, or maybe your side job is to help out with the youth group. Like you don't get paid for it, but you're passionate about it, so you help with it. Like, yeah, there's lots of other ways to find purpose, and I don't want to just disparage the people who make a lot of money, because a job can just be a job. But I guess for the more ambitious, career-oriented individuals is kind of what I targeted all my stuff at.
The society, or a lot of people in society, I guess, very similar. How much money you make and what you own is what determines how successful you are. But on a personal level, feeling fulfilled and doing something that matters to you is successful.
Yep.
If you enjoy making YouTube videos and talking on podcasts that get 7 views and you get 8 views, guess what? You're super successful. You determine your own success. And setting goals and setting milestones that are out there but achievable will give you just probably the biggest dopamine hit you've ever had.
Yep. Yeah, everyone has to have some kind of goals. If you don't have a goal, then what are you working towards? Like we're such future optimized individuals, and we have to have something that we're aiming towards. Otherwise, we're just going to live day to day, and the day-to-day life will completely consume us. So at least set your sights higher and pursue it and go from A to B is my main advice.
Yeah. And I think, as we've discussed, it's not necessarily luck-based. There are some luck components.
Yes.
But you being successful, you determine your own success by setting goals. And if you're making goals that are based on luck, you might never hit them. But you should work hard enough to make yourself lucky.
I agree completely.
Do you have any summary that you want to talk about with whether we talked about with careers or the success or the I'm losing what we
Success
luck,
goals.
luck
I kind of said, I kind of did my summary.
okay.
My one-liner is like make your own luck.
Yeah, work hard enough. Work hard enough that the outside people are going to say that you got lucky. Yeah, if you're always betting on luck, you'll never be successful.
That's it. Yep, that's true. That's it. That's like perfect encapsulation.
Any
Hot
final
takes?
thoughts? Go ahead.
Hot takes for you?
Yeah, hot takes. The people, I think, as a society, this is probably not a hot take. As a society, we're going to become more social or more specialized. I almost said socialized, more specialized. But the people that are mold breakers and become jack of all trades will become our famous people. Will be the next famous people because they'll be so odd that people will be drawn to them. Whether it's, and I say famous, and it could be relatively famous, like, oh, everyone in the manufacturing field knows who Evan is because he's so jack of all trades. We ask him questions about everything, and that might not be a nationwide thing. That might be an Oklahoma, Oklahoma thing or a community thing. But those jack of all trades people will become more famous and have a bigger platform as people become more specialized.
I can see that. My hot take is actually the opposite, is that people will become more polymathic. They'll become more like jack of all trades because the tools of leverage destroys specialization. Now, like, you don't have to be an expert in videography. Everything's like built out for you if you want to start a YouTube channel. Oh, you don't have to be an expert at coding AI. As long as you kind of understand what you want to program, you know a little decent amount, AI can do the dirty work for you. And that's going to be true in a lot of fields. So that's going to give you so much more time to despecialize and learn new skills. And on top of that, AI is going to allow you, you're going to be able to treat AI as your personal tutor to learn anything. I use it every single day to learn stuff. And it's so much better than Google. It's so much better than YouTube. But before too long, it's going to be making YouTube videos on topics, how to learn topics. You could type in I bet within 3 years you would type in, I want to learn about this idea in machine learning, and it'll spit out a video for you to learn it. And then you put a problem. I'm trying to figure this out. Help me, and it'll help you. So I think the jack of all trades will experience a resurgence. The Renaissance man will return.
Okay. As we wrap up here, why don't you tell us how to use AI? how are you said you use it every day instead of Google. What website are you using and how do you use it?
Yeah, I use ChatGPT, the OpenAI. I bought the $20 a month version. I think it's the best $20 a month you could possibly spend. And I mean, GPT-4 works phenomenal for science and programming. So if I'm working on any kind of data science project, you can just, if you know coding a little bit, if you know how to program a little bit, it will improve your programming output 10x. And then if I'm writing and I'm stuck, I'll just say, hey, finish this sentence or finish this paragraph, put it in, and it finishes the paragraph. And sometimes I would say the output is not super great a lot of times, but it gets you the ideas flowing. Or if I'm like, oh, if I'm reading a science paper, and I firmly believe in science, like I said, that you should be reading papers outside of your scope. I'm reading papers on the brain. I work on the heart. And I don't understand something, I copy and paste section I don't understand into ChatGPT, say, hey, explain this to me. And it will explain it to me. And I go through papers like that every single day. At least one paper in the morning, probably 2 or 3 each day. most of the time. And then, so yeah, between the programming, the summarization, and the writing, it is like a monster on my productivity. It's incredible.
Okay. Clip it, chat. Hopefully that was under 60 seconds. Any final thoughts?
Nope. What about you?
No, I don't have any. So,
all right.
This has been Simply Technical. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share with a friend. Clip every moment that I scratch my head and send it to me on Twitter. And we'll catch you guys next time.